Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, Scott.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi, Cindy.
Hey, Cindy.
Hello.
Hello, Dale. I don't see you, but hello. And Jen and Aaron.
Kevin, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
It's been a rough week. And it's only Tuesday.
Oh,
How are you guys doing?
well, doing very well. Yeah.
Still waiting for my vaccine.
Yeah.
I'll be waiting for a couple of months at least.
I
My
only
husband got one today.
Did he?
Yeah. He said it's just sore right now. He
Yeah.
got one at 7 this morning.
Yeah, that's kind of the main
yeah, the main
side
side
effect
effect.
that I've heard thus far. So
Mhm.
Yeah, he qualified because he has diabetes.
yeah. You got your second, didn't you, Dale?
I got my second this morning, yes.
Yeah.
Very good team. Yeah.
So far, so good.
Yeah. I expect it to stay so. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't.
A lot of emails about why is it taking so long come at me all day, every day,
I can't imagine.
all day.
I mean, I really
And
can't.
why can't I fix it? So,
Don't you wish you had that kind of power?
that's what I say. I appreciate their thought that I would. So,
Oh my.
yeah.
So we're waiting for a couple others. Somebody's connecting to audio. I don't know who it is.
Looks like it's the mayor.
Is it Jerry? Okay. There you are. Hello, Mayor Welch.
Hi, how are you, Kevin?
I'm doing well. We've had a rough week. Yeah, I think a lot of us
Really?
have had a rough couple of weeks. I know
Mhm.
Cindy has, and John with the loss of his mother, and
Mm.
yeah, my son-in-law's grandmother passed away, and they had to put their dog down, and
Oh,
it's like,
sorry.
oh my gosh.
Uh,
Yeah, but you know, that's life, right? We have to deal with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hello, Angela.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
I'm gonna get settled here.
So Kevin's here, and we're waiting for Katie, and Cindy's here. We're waiting for Jean. John and Eric won't be able to make it. John, our prayers are with him on the loss of his mother on Friday. And then Angela's here, and then Reverend Hayes had a church meeting this evening. So let's wait a couple of minutes for, because right now, 1, 2, 3, 4. We need one more for a quorum. Hi, and there she is. Hello, Katie.
Hi, how are
Hi,
you
Katie.
guys? Hey,
So I'll wait a second before I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Put the agenda up at least. Everybody see it?
Yes.
Yep.
everybody went little on me now on the right-hand side, so. I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. Jean is the only one that I'm expecting that is missing at this point, but we do have a quorum, so I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. Present is Kevin, Dr. Grish, Katie Miller, Cindy Noy, Angela Brooks, Mary Welch, and Chief Curtis. First order of the agenda item is the review and approval of the minutes from January 26th, which is our regular PCEB meeting, and then the February 8th nomination committee meeting minutes. Do we have any corrections? And Scott is smiling. I do not have any, Aaron. You did a fabulous job. I have no corrections to, and since I wrote the other minutes,
You should correct yourself.
Does anyone else have corrections for the minutes that I wrote from our meeting on February 8th? I'm going ahead and adding both of these to the approval. So do I have a motion to approve both the January 26th, 2021 meeting minutes and the February 8th nomination committee meeting minutes?
So moved.
Scott moves. Do I have a second?
Second, Angela.
Angela seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, the same. The minutes are approved, so they can now be posted. As indicated in the minutes, on the February 8th meeting, the nomination committee met on February the 8th. And we had probably a 45-minute discussion on who we think would be best to move us forward from this point. Hopefully I have done an okay job in getting us started. And now it's time to pass the torch, so to speak, so that someone else can move us forward. And after a discussion, it was decided that Cindy Noy would be the recommended nominee from the nomination committee to serve as board chair, effective at this point during the after the election, if she is so chosen, forward. Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation from the board on nominating Cindy Noy as board chair for the PCEB, Police Community Engagement Board?
So moved.
Angela, do I have a second?
Second. Second, yeah.
Katie seconds. And now we can move into any discussion that we deem necessary. We all discussed a lot of we thought Cindy's technology background, the fact that John Thomas had mentioned that he had worked very closely with her within the school district on several issues. And that Cindy, you were great to work with. And he thought that you would be a great person to move us forward. Angela, I brought you and your credentials up in the meeting, and you offer an awful lot to this board. And I'm so glad that you're here with us. Do I have any other items of discussion? All in favor of electing Cindy Noy as the new board chair, say aye.
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 All opposed, the same. Hearing no nay votes. Cindy, congratulations. You
Hooray.
are the board chair. Before I pass the gavel on to Cindy, I do have a point of order that I would like to ask. I don't believe it's necessary, and we discussed this during the committee, to elect a new vice chair. We would like that Katie Miller retain the position as vice chair so that there is some continuity in the leadership of the board. Do I have any discussion on that? And Jerry, are we okay with leaving Katie as vice chair?
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. And I did tell Cindy too that I would be with her side by side and provide her with any background information. And she and I have already had a couple of discussions. And so I want to make sure that we move forward with the charge and with the mission that this board has started, so that we can continue on. Katie, I will pass it over to, or Cindy, I will pass it over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm humbled and honored. Thank you very much. So I, of course, any organization like this, we all work together. I'll need help. I know how we do it in the district, but I'm sure there's other rules that apply with things like this. So we'll move on to item number 5, which is reports on the interviews for the Webster University student newspaper. I believe Dale, Katie, Kevin, and Jerry, you guys all were interviewed by Webster University student newspaper. And if you'd like to report.
Who wants to start? I can start. So Emily Craig, we talked, it was about half hour or so. She found out, she immediately discovered that I was an alum of Webster University. And so she had done some previous research. I received my master's degree, my MBA from Webster University. Absolutely phenomenal program. She asked a bit about my background and how long I lived in Webster. And she asked why I decided to apply for the board position. And I explained that I'd lived in Webster for over 30 years and I love the community and wanted to give back. I said I thought that my skill set matched the position with my experience in working with other boards. I've worked with several other not-for-profits. And I also said that I thought it was extremely important that helping to build a positive relationship between the police department and the community was good for the community, and I thought I could assist in that endeavor. She asked why we are reaching out to the Webster University students and asking for their input. And I said that the students live in the community a large portion of the year, some permanently, and can offer valuable insight on how the relationship between them and the police department could be improved. With Webster U having such a large presence in the community, we believe that the students should have the opportunity to participate. She asked if we have received much input from the community thus far and has anything changed. I proceeded to say input had been received and discussed during many meetings. And I also stated that after the George Floyd incident in Minneapolis, some members of the community were interested in the policies regarding the use of force, especially chokeholds, strangleholds, and other respiratory techniques. I indicated that the prohibition of these techniques has been in place since 2004 in Webster Groves, and this information was provided to the public. I then explained how to access the Webster Groves Police Department policies from the PCEB webpage on the City of Webster Groves website. And I also mentioned that the board has had much discussion regarding the ongoing training of our police officers, the disparity index, and I explained that one specific change was the elimination of the LPRs to determine if that would have an impact on the disparity index. I explained that the new data shows the disparity rate has gone down for resident-only stops. She then asked if there was any other information I would like to provide, and I requested that she include the link to the survey and instruction on how to access the webpage. Also let her know that the meetings are held, when the meetings are held, and that it would be great if students could listen into the meetings and provide input through the remarks of visitors. I sent her an email with the link to the survey and the instructions for accessing the PCEB webpage and the police department policies webpage. And that was pretty much what we talked about.
Thank you. Chief Curtis, you want to report out?
Sure. I basically will echo what Kevin said. That's what she discussed with me, and we went over. Possibly the only thing that he didn't mention was she asked about the genesis of the PCEB, and we kind of discussed how it was originated and why, and how the criteria for membership was established. And I apologize, I'm getting a little hoarse. I don't know if it's the second shot I had this morning or not, but I'm losing my voice. Sorry.
No worries. Thank you. Katie?
Many of the same points that Kevin mentioned. The only other thing, of course, because I'm a therapist, so I like to ask questions more than being asked questions. So I asked her, I was like, well, kind of what's your angle, or what are your thoughts for this piece? And she just shared that she thinks that there's a lot of interest, but not a lot of knowledge on the part of students. And so she's just hoping to help spread the word that the PC even exists. And she got a little bit interested or animated about how maybe students at Webster could help us reach out to students and use, whether it's social media or other ways of engaging with younger people in the community. And I said that would be great. So anyway, that's all I have to add.
Thanks. Mayor Welch?
Not much different, except she wanted to know why we wanted to hear from the Webster University students and why we were approaching them. And I assured her that the university students are an important part of this community, but nothing else.
Mayor Welch, you muted yourself.
Yeah, nothing that hasn't been covered. So thank you.
All right, thanks. Any other thoughts from that? Any discussion items? Okay. So let's move on for an update on future presentations to Webster University students and faculty.
Okay, that's something I had a meeting with several of the Webster University professors that were interested to help plan this future event. The consensus is that the best time to try and engage the students would be sometime in April. I do want to put it before the board about what time that should be. We thought early evening, of course, not in conflict with existing important meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Hoping to get, the mayor and the chief and as many board members present as possible, and also hoping to invite perhaps Officer Bell and a few other officers to be present if possible. There's a lot of interest and excitement, and I think that's what's being discussed about the interview, which kind of sprung board after that meeting I had with the faculty. They had a chance to look over the survey and are currently starting to collate their ideas, thoughts around it, how it struck them. I encourage them to just review it and see what they thought. And Jennifer Starkey is my point person at Webster. And she is helping collate those responses, and I will make sure they get forwarded to all members of the board right away. There's also interest of a couple of the criminology professors to
Oh.
perhaps offer intellectual support. Some have been involved in a similar group before, it seems, and they definitely want to be available to us as possible. I think perhaps even present to us, and I throw that also as a question before the board currently. The implicit bias training, of course, they felt was very essential and important. Want to make sure it is a ongoing action, not only a one time. And they, a few of the professors are offering other ideas on how to get that done. And beyond that, there's a vision just to have a community public event at some point where the police and the citizenry do something positive and fun together to help build trust. So there's a lot of discussion about trust building and how to build our brand in front of the community. So those are the main issues that came before. They offered a few articles already for some background reading, and I definitely will forward those. I just have received those recently. So those are the issues. So again, I think finding out, I'm trying to pin them down on a time, and also trying to think about what should be on the agenda of that event as well.
Mhm.
One thing that occurred to me while I was talking to them, and I think is important and came up during this newspaper interview, is how do we start to show the positive actions that have occurred because of the board? I wanted to discuss the LPR being removed and other actions, the statements provided. I think a slide on our initial slide set that we presented to introduce ourselves should be dedicated to positive improvements and have it continue to be added to as we go along. And I think that also would be very great to have on our website. They felt that we didn't have enough of a website presence still. And also questions on how do they contact us for input and how would we handle that? So those are the main points, I think. Any questions?
I really like that last piece though about positive outcomes. You know, can we unpack that a little bit? What are some things that those of you who've been on the board for a while, a couple of things that are positive outcomes because of the board's actions?
You know, you might ask Chief Curtis that because he had outlined 4 of them for me that I took to council.
Okay.
So I think Dale's got 4 positive outcomes from the discussion. So maybe he voice or
I know,
he-
I don't think Chief Curtis has much of a voice tonight. We won't make him talk.
but he can just mention those 4 things. Come on, Dale. I had the shot today too, and it's getting in my muscles.
Oh, my.
Everybody got the shot.
I apologize, Mayor. I
Just
think,
enumerate them.
yeah, I don't have the list that I gave you in front of me. So, but going from memory, probably the biggest thing was looking at the disparity rate. We just made the decision to eliminate the LPRs to determine if that was affecting our disparity rate. We've put our policies online so that the community is able to see what the policies are. And you'll have to refresh my memory on the other 2. Like I said, I don't have that list in front of me. I had to sit down and take a look at what the results were. But we did do several things to help us, react to some of the concerns of the community about how we police and about the disparity rate.
Okay.
I think
I'm looking
Dale,
for it.
yeah, I think Dale, you had also mentioned that you were concentrating more of your efforts on policing the local streets and not so much on Interstate 44.
That was one of the things. I'm not sure if that was one that I gave the mayor or not, but that was,
Yes.
That was a number, that was one of the big factors is on our traffic stops, we only stop, last year we stopped less than 12% were resident stops. And part of that, we had a large discrepancy in terms of the way that we've enforced traffic on the highway and the way that we enforce traffic on our local streets. We reduced that over the 2-year period by well over 60%. We still do it. We still have to police the highway. We get grants from MoDOT because the highway patrol
Right.
they do not come into the inner ring suburbs. So if we don't go up there at all, it turns into a speedway. So we do need to still pay attention to it. We have dramatically reduced that. And we've increased our interactions in terms of the way that we use our community engagement officer. And one of the things that we're doing now, we have a hiring process that we just started, and we're having a recruiting team. In the past, we've tried to get people. We've had mandated that people come into the police department, come into the city hall for the testing, either at the rec center or at city hall, and for the oral boards. What we're doing this time is we have a recruiting team. We're going to send them out with materials. For instance, this Friday, 3 of our officers, Detective Bell, Detective Kaiser, and Captain Spear, are going up to the New Lincoln University Academy and present to them. And if we can get some interest outside of this area, we are going to have online exam testing, and then we will also have available online interviews for those that cannot come into the site. So we're hoping to improve our reach for minority and female officers, and I'm very hopeful that we're going to be able to do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
I can add, I was looking for your email, Dale. We've removed those license plate readers
Mhm.
from use, and you have kind of avoided, and I think we saw that on the last video that you showed, that we are not pursuing these, what I call them, these small warrants. Somebody has a parking ticket in Pine Lawn, we're not going to arrest them for that, even though there's a warrant out for them. So there's a lot that we have done from the discussion with this group.
All right.
That's something I did bring up to them in that last piece, and I wondered if that added to a decrease in the disparity index as well. But the most important thing is if we could put bullet points like this together, I think that would
Yes.
be really essential to show what we've done and where we want to go and get other ideas from them.
Thank you.
God, excuse me. I think it's the right thing to do, and that's what we are doing, and that's what we will continue to do. But I don't think that specifically probably did anything to affect the disparity rate, because what happens is on those stops, we've already made the stop. We're not making the stop because of a warrant. It's a traffic stop. And when we find out on a traffic stop, when the officers discover that someone has a warrant, if it's a minor traffic warrant, again, in the past, they would affect an arrest. But our policy now is if it's a minor traffic warrant or something that's even a minor, if it's a misdemeanor, that we inform them that they have a warrant out and they need to go to whichever agency that has the warrant out to get it taken care of, and we don't make an arrest. I just think that we're basically changing, and that's the right thing to do. But I don't think that in particular does help our disparity rate.
Yeah, I just want to bring up though that, I'm not sure we necessarily want to police based on the disparity rate, because I think that we need to be careful in making sure that the public safety in the community remains high, so that and so I think there's a fine balance between looking at the disparity rate and policing effectively within the community to make sure that public safety remains high. I think that's a concern from some.
I would agree with that, Kevin. And I again, I don't think that the way that we are policing right now negatively affects public safety to any great degree. As I've said before, I can't promise, especially looking at these last statistics, and I brought it up at the last meeting. I can't promise you that our disparity rate is ever going to be one-on-one in the way that the formula says that it's supposed to be. Looking at our stats again as preliminary, I won't really know for sure until I get everything back from the state on it. But it looks like our resident disparity rate went down to like a 1.8 or 1.9. The one thing that helped us look at this time anecdotally, and I think it will prove out, is that they broke the categories down for patrol stops, specialized stops, and what was basically traffic details. And all of those were about 20% minority stops. On the specialties and on the special details and on the traffic details, 90% of those are radar stops. The radar is colorblind. It doesn't see a color of the driver. You don't know the race of the driver or the sex of the driver until you've made that stop. So it tells me that the 20% are about what we would expect in the type of traffic that we have coming through the city. And again, we have hundreds of miles of roads. We have thousands of cars going through the city. It's not the resident population that the formula should be based upon. So we only stopped 35 minority residents all of last year in our stops. So again, we pay attention to it. We're not discounting it as being something that we shouldn't look at, but it's also something, again, we're because of the environment that we're in, because we're an inner ring suburb, because of the transient population, I can't ever promise you that we're going to get it down to a level where people say, oh, well, that's what the formula meets. It's unfortunate, but I do think we need to do things, and I think we have done things to give the community confidence that we are making a strong effort to pay attention to it and not profile. And training goes along with that. We had almost 120 hours of racial profile and implicit bias training last year for the officers.
Right. And isn't it important that we are confident that what happens after the stop or during the stop?
Yes, and we, again, with the body cameras and the vehicle cameras, we routinely and randomly review those videos. Anytime we determine that there's a problem, we make sure that the officers are counseled on it. Some of the examples that I showed in the last meeting, I think is typical of what you see on our traffic stops from our officers. And in general, I think that's the way that we want them to behave and want them to police.
Chief, I had one question. I feel bad making you talk so much, but those 7 videos you showed last time, they were all people of color? Was that just at random? That's just what happened out of, tons and tons of video, or was that?
I intentionally tried to pull
Okay.
the people of color so that, again, as you can tell, especially on the ones at night and the one on the highway, the officers, it's seldom actually that they can tell the race or the sex of the driver until they stop them. So I just wanted to give an example of how the stops are made and how people of color are treated when the traffic stops are made. And I think the examples that we showed, again, we only stopped 35 residents, minority residents last year, but I think it's typical of the way that officers treat people when they're stopped, not just minorities, but all people. And that's the way that it should be. Everybody should be treated the same. There should be equity in that treatment, and there shouldn't be any prejudice in it. And I think that in general, we've always done a good job, but I think we've improved it considerably. And hopefully, again, anytime anybody wants to look at some of the examples of those, we can do that. But we do that randomly. We make sure the officers are behaving the way that they're supposed to behave and treating people the way they're supposed to be treated on the traffic stops.
All right. Thank you. Let's move on. Chief, I hope your voice holds up. So we're going to discuss the possibility of soliciting engagement suggestions from the Webster Groves police officers. Chief, have you put any thought into that, or does anyone have some suggestions on how we can implement that? The whole idea, it's not about the policing as much as it's about repairing and regaining trust within the community. I feel like a lot of these issues, and I've lived in the district a very long time, go back decades. And that healing has never taken place. And so that's kind of what we're trying to do. Many of the police officers that are on the force right now may not have been around at that time, but we all have to deal with any perception that's out there. So any ideas on how we can get the police officers involved in really beginning to building that communication?
We're certainly open to suggestions. I mean, some of the things that we're trying to do is make sure that our community engagement officer, especially, but other officers, our community-oriented police officers attend the neighborhood meetings. We have things like the National Night Out, Coffee with a Cop. Those kind of things have become much more difficult with the COVID-19. Even though the police officers out in the public, we don't want to come into intimate contact, and people in the community really don't want to gather for that same reason. So we certainly are open to expanding that, to having more meetings with the public, to maybe have more neighborhood meetings. Make sure that rather than just the community engagement officer, that we have a couple or three officers present at those type of meetings, especially those ones where we have organizations. And we're open to any other suggestions as well that you think that might help us. I did notice the one, excuse me, the one remarks of visitors. And go ahead and respond to that. And that I'm sorry that I apologize. I didn't have time to check our CAD for the numbers. I'm doing this from home tonight, but I know that we have well over 1,000 foot patrols, park patrols that we've logged. So we encourage the officers. That's always been something that we've done, and that they do get out on foot and try and interact with the community when we can. One of the things that makes it difficult, though, is that we are mainly a single residence community. If the district officer has to find a place to park his car, walk up and down, walk up and down the blocks. I mean, frequently people aren't outside. He would have to individually go to houses, and it's just a difficult thing to do. So it's not something we haven't thought of, and not something that we try to do. As I said, we have well over 1,000 foot patrols and business contacts and park contacts. But as far as actually doing that daily and making contact daily with residents, it's a very difficult thing to do, especially when we have calls and we only have 6 officers to cover 300 miles of street. So we can't take them out of service for too long because we do have calls during the night.
Chief, what are your thoughts about, I thought about this today. I was talking with our resource officer in Brentwood, and what if on a Zoom, we had some officers and maybe some young people from the high school and the university just tell stories. When we share our stories with each other, we can't help but be engaged, and there's no judgment, and we just listen to stories as if everyone's going to tell their stories. I know there's a story that police officers tell. It's, you have certain duties, you have certain things you have to do. And if it's coming off as, abrasive to certain groups, they'd want to know really what is the story. And I'm sure officers would like to hear the stories of some of these young people or just people in the community. Do you think they'd be open to a small gathering of that?
Excuse me. I'm sure that they would be. Honestly, John, fortunately, Thomas is not here tonight. Cam McCullough and Bob Graff, who are our SROs, that's something that they do at the schools, especially at Hickson. Cam does a lot of work with the middle schoolers down there. I know he has conversations with them frequently about those kind of things. But to expand that and bring in a few more officers and have those kind of conversations, I mean, we'd certainly be open to it. And I know the officers would certainly welcome that too.
What do other people think? What do you guys think?
I think it's a great idea.
I do
Yeah.
too.
I do too. And I actually I threw this on the agenda. Cindy and I had talked about it. And I put this on the agenda to try to get the input from the officers. What do they think? How do they think that the engagement could be improved? Because sometimes it's how the public wants it to occur. And we forget to ask the officers that are actually involved in that daily routine and putting their lives in danger on a daily basis. How do they think that the engagement could improve. So,
Or do they think it should improve?
yeah,
Quite honestly, I think you would hear from just practically every officer that we would like to do everything we can to improve it and make it as something that's positive as possible. In that regard, though, Kevin, it's, we are responsible to the community. We want to police like the community wants us to police. We want to be engaged and engaged like the community wants us to engage. So I think it's more important for the community input to the police officers to hear that, even though the officers can maybe tell their stories and some of the difficulties. But I think it's much more important for them to hear from the community than it is for the community to hear from them.
I mean, we can run a series of them. We can do young people. Young people are always easy because they're very, very honest. And that might give some of our older community members, going up the age brackets, to share their stories. And I think just the more we share our stories, the better the relation. It's just like any relationship. The better the relationship, it becomes stronger, and we become bonded by that opportunity of sharing.
I also like the idea of the Zoom meeting with the officers, but also getting officers' input and feedback. One of the reasons is, it's already been discussed, Chief Curtis's officers know their schedule as well. So I think that would give us some good insight as to ideas that would work. So I think input from both would really help, because we're all in this together. It's the community and the police. So I just think it's valuable, and then let the officers know that their thoughts and opinions are valued as well.
I love that. Thank you,
I-
Angela.
I also like it from like that transparency standpoint, because that would be a Zoom meeting where I assume the public could attend if they wanted. So for that question, what is the PCEB doing? Facilitating that conversation and allowing that, or helping that to come together. I think that's good. That's good for the public, our community, to know that we're here to help facilitate things like that.
That seems to also be something that when I had that meeting with faculty, that storyboard, kind of that story sharing was something they want. They want us to hear the stories and share those with the university. And it reminded me one other thing. There's a question is whether our youth person could come from Webster. I didn't mention that, but they could, Jennifer was excited about that idea, and they could also be a liaison and a conduit to get that input from our younger residents to the group at large, and have a continuity for a couple years too. So I don't know how the group feels about that.
I think it's a great idea.
And also, Chief Curtis, I know with COVID going on now that you can't do, but do you still do ride-alongs with the police officers?
Yes, we do.
Do you get a good turnout from I don't want to say elder, but older residents of Webster, those that may have some ill feeling, against the police officers? Maybe if they would submit to doing that.
We get, we get very few requests for ride-alongs. Same thing with the Citizen Police Academy. Whenever we're able to have that, and I'm hopeful that things will ever get back to normal, but I'm hopeful that when we're ever to actually be doing in-person things again, that we can again conduct a Citizens Academy. And I think it's important for people to do that. Again, we're not trying to indoctrinate people into how the police work, but basically see how what it is that they do. See why it is sometimes very difficult. I know some of the officers, and some of it's legitimate, some it's not, but they feel like they're under intense scrutiny. And even when they try and do things right, try to do the right thing, sometimes they feel like they are, the criticism they get is just something that people don't really understand why it is and how it is they do things. And the Citizens Academy and a ride-along program, I think, would help in that regard a lot.
And possibly after, once, we're free of this COVID, maybe we can even have it put on the marquee, once a month, you can ride along with the police officer or something like that. So when they're driving by, they can see what days, will be available to ride along with the police officer.
I think that's, what you said, Chief Curtis, is really important. You know, we have pain on both sides, the community and the police officers. So it's a more urgent need right now that we really take care of people. And let's build some bridges there. I didn't know you had ride-alongs. I'm gonna request one during my spring break.
We'll get you fixed up.
I like that. I really do.
Get her a scary one.
The scarier, the better. I love them. I always think I'm a police officer at school.
Yeah, I'd
Any
like
more-
to, yeah, I'd like to make a real quick point. I think that you know, some of the reaction that I received from the people of color regarding the police community and or the community academy, the police community academy, was there was a little fear involved in actually going to that level of understanding of the police. I don't understand what that fear is, but can someone speak to that a little bit more in a little more detail on I got a lot of pushback on people of color actually wanting to go through the Citizens Police Academy.
It might not have been fear. It might have been just what do you guys think? I'm assuming they just didn't, that's not how they wanted to engage. You know,
Okay.
I think people are seeking a remedy that's different.
Okay.
I don't know. Anybody else have some ideas?
Yeah, I think
I
maybe,
haven't. Oh, sorry, Eric, go ahead.
I think maybe just the word fear is incorrect. I don't think it's
Okay.
either.
Uncomfortable?
Maybe more uncomfortable than fear.
Okay.
I feel like from a psychological point of view, if I feel that I have been wronged, I feel angry about that. And I don't want to understand things from that other person's point of view. I just kind of want to be heard and understood in my anger. So I think, I don't know, I'm just putting myself in somebody else's shoes. I'm wondering if it's like, I want to be heard before I want to reach out and extend myself to understand your point of view. Does that seem right?
That sounds right. To me, it just sounds like that wasn't, while you thought it was helpful, it wasn't what they were looking for. And people do want to be heard. They want to tell their stories and they want to understand. And that's while that sounds very simple, that is a huge part of all of this. I mean, to engage with the community, you have to engage in some way. And the simplest way is just by talking.
And maybe as we try to facilitate rebuilding that trust, then there will be more interest in the Citizens Police Academy and understanding the inner workings of the police department.
I also think it's important to offer different levels of opportunity. That is much more in your face and much more saying, you know, hey, I want to understand the process and what happens. But it's been shared before, if that trust is not there and there's not that type of, you know, people aren't just at that level to engage in that manner, that if other opportunities are offered, it would maybe make people more comfortable. And that may be something that you eventually may evolve to wanting to participate.
I think you could consider changing the name as well. I think Police Academy feels like you're going to like get in line and, you know, in step and like, you know, do a boot camp or, you know, try to like try your hand at being a policeman or something. I feel like it's a little misleading. Feel like it, and I think a lot of people, and, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, if you have deep hurt about something that you've, you know, experience you've had with the police department, like, why would you want to go and like I think that there's almost like a stigma of like people would almost make fun of you for like going and like, oh, you're at the police academy, so you're going to be a police officer now, or I mean, I think that there's just there could be a gentler way to approach people than that, and maybe that's also still available for for people, but maybe like everyone was saying, maybe different levels of participation.
Yeah, I'm certainly open to changing the name if you can offer something that you think would be applicable. But at the same time, I don't think we should put a name on it that's going to give people the idea that it's not what it is, and that is goes through the basics of. I mean, it doesn't really go through all the basics, but it goes through the rudimentary basics of what the police officers, how they learn things in the academy, why they do things, and how things are done on the street once they do actually get out and become a police officer. So I'm not quite sure how we would frame that and how we would label it, but I'm certainly open to changing the label. But I want to be careful and not give people the idea that they think they're walking into something that's not what it is.
Yeah, and I think if it is really kind of very much like this is sort of a police academy sort of training, I think that that's perfectly reasonable to keep that name. But I feel like if you're looking at something that's more like, coming to the table, like and talking or discussing or seeing different points of view, I think it's probably a different program that maybe we could be sort of like pushing out there.
There might be different ways. Angela put a great point. Like the academy is one level, but dialogue might be another level. Watching something on a video or looking at a presentation is another level. So people engage in a variety of ways depending on their comfort level. So we can maybe think of different things. We'll put a pin on that name thing, Citizens on Patrol or something like that. Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Okay. So how can we find ways to distribute the survey better than we're doing now, so that we're going to different meetings? Is there a broader way to distribute the survey? Any thoughts on that?
At the last meeting, we talked about putting that survey on the website, et cetera, but I think the group had made the decision not to do that. And so if you want that on the website, we have to figure out how to do that, and we have to get the agreement of this group to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a matter of deciding where you want that survey to go.
It sounds like right now it's going to particular groups that are established in Webster, but then there's this larger community of people that are not in those organizations. Is there a different way? If you put it on the website, then you aren't really sure, I guess, unless we added some, I don't know about that. Unless there's no way to be sure that it's Webster people filling it out and not just, a bunch of people trying to be funny. So there's the main website. Is there any other way that, other than the Webster Kirkwood Times, that people connect in Webster?
I mean, you can connect them through the website. You can connect them if you put it in the Webster Kirkwood Times. Do you end up with the same sort of question about who's answering then? And is the same person answering the survey 10 times? Those are the things that I think we wrestled with when this initial survey was proposed. So that's the hard thing here.
I know that it requires it requires an email address that you enter. And I know people can put fake email addresses in there, but
doesn't tell you where that person is or where they're from.
Is that a substantial risk? I mean, are people really going to spend the time to fill out the survey that don't care about the community?
I mean, I guess it's like anything, like when you're writing a paper for school, if there are limitations in any study. You know, I'm wondering if we do more, we're going to be on Zoom for a long time, according to Dr. Fauci. But so, you know, I mean, when we do things like this, is there a way to, if people sign up for an event, a Zoom event, then we can send them the Zoom link, and then we'd have their email and you can send them the survey. So if we did more online, like the dialogue thing, or a lot of meetings like that, that'll draw lots of people and maybe advertise it someplace like the Webster Kirkwood Times, then you can generate a little bit more. That's just one thought that I had.
I mean, Emily, I requested that Emily put it in the Webster student newspaper. And maybe I overstepped my bounds in doing that, but that's a very limited audience.
Yeah.
Well,
And
there was pushback about, even there from a couple of professors, about including email on their end.
Yeah.
right,
That concern, I guess, about retaining some anonymity so you could be honest.
right.
I've heard that.
That's
as
the
well.
difficulty.
Yeah, I had heard that from the AID as well, from the Alliance. So, but again, that's one of the ways that we can, you know, kind of make sure that it's people that really care about the community and want to have input within the community.
I mean, you
Is
could
there
put it in the
some-
Times and just see what kind of data come, you know,
Right.
it may not be significant.
I wondered if there's a number of, like, that we would get to, that we would feel like this is a nice, significant number of our community that we feel confident is representative, you know? I don't think we have that number either.
You know, we
It's
have,
also important to remember too, that we have people in the community that don't have an email address.
Right.
And sometimes when there are formats that require that, they may not complete it. So I think we should think about those who don't have it, because I've encountered those who don't have an email address, who want to complete the survey as well.
you know, we have, I don't know what it is, 16, 17 boards and commissions now. I mean, we're one of like 17 boards. Each of those boards is populated by people who are interested in the community. I could explore seeing if we could push that survey out to every board and commission member, because that would get you people who are in tune with the city, who know what's going on. I mean, that might be a broad spectrum and a good group of folks.
Would
So
it
you let
be-
me know.
Would it be racially diverse? Would it be a fairly,
It's as racially diverse as our boards and commissions are. So
yeah,
not too racially diverse, but we could also send this off to the North Webster Neighborhood Coalition. That would help us get a more racially diverse group.
Yeah.
There are ways that
They have received the survey, mostly members have, and again, it came up that there are some who don't have email who would not be able to participate. So I think we should really think about, because some people who, whether they are, just, older and don't trust, various reasons people don't have an email address, but I think it is a barrier to us getting some feedback.
I mean, we can make a bunch with paper and just hand tally.
maybe Eric Hayes would hand them out to his church congregation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one way that we could get a more diverse group.
Yeah.
Also, maybe we could work through some of the churches.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that, but the only problem right now is, again, COVID. A lot of your churches aren't meeting.
Right.
I know.
I mean, it would be great when we get back into our church sanctuaries and buildings that we could have our congregants to fill out the surveys. But right now, we haven't been in our church since COVID.
Yeah.
So we might have to push the pause button on the survey until things loosen up a little bit socially,
Yeah.
so we can do some face-to-face, body-to-body kind of. Is everybody comfortable just kind of holding on to that, or?
Well, my only thought too is pushing it to the Webster is to have practice run at it. So then we're
Mhm.
ready to go out to
Okay.
the churches. That was my thought. I don't know if you guys agree
Can we
with
still
that
do that? You guys want to still do that? Send it out to the university?
That's good.
as a practice.
Mhm. Okay. So we kind of talked about this. Any other thoughts about ways to engagement activities, other than what we talked about earlier? Or anything else that has kind of hit you inside?
Well, I know that Katie and Angela had met on the potential of a retreat.
Yes.
So I thought this might be a good place to discuss that. What your
Angela
conversation
and
was.
Katie.
Angela, do you want to start?
No, you go ahead, Katie.
Well, Angela and I had a nice meeting on Saturday morning a couple weeks ago. Is that right? A week ago or so.
Yes.
And we developed kind of like a very bare bones agenda that we're filling out on our own. And maybe the best next step is for me or Angela just to email you the bare bones agenda. But kind of our priorities, I think, are team building, like giving us all an opportunity to get to know one another in a deeper way. We have gotten to know one another a bit, but now we have some new folks, and just that trust building is so important as we do this work together. And as we set an example, I think, for trust building in our community. So then doing some kind of like team building, getting acquainted, smaller breakout group discussions, hopefully we have an idea about having a kind of a guest speaker, and then reflection time and goal setting, because this is, we spend some amount of time at every meeting, a little bit goal setting, but maybe we can solidify that so that it doesn't feel so fresh every time. And then, just a closing. So Angela, what else do you want to add to that?
Well, I think you summed it up, basically, just to get acquainted, allow us to just to be able to hear the diverse perspectives represented in this group. I think it's important to know who we have that comprise this committee, and maybe the perspectives and experiences that shape who we are, that, will help us to be able to kind of work together better and have a greater understanding of those that are in our community as well.
That idea. When are we, this summer, is that, or now?
Well, that was a point. So John Thomas, I think everybody knows, is retiring. So he's stepping off. And so he had suggested to me, he said, well, maybe you want to wait and somebody will take my place, and maybe you want to wait till the summer. But Angela and I talked about maybe, I think one of the things that has been a challenge in this group is just between the pandemic and this being a new group, everything's felt very slow. So maybe we just want to go ahead and sooner rather than later do this retreat.
Now, does it have to be online, or what? How does, okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I brought up the last time. It has to be there needs to be an agenda.
She's got one.
It'll have to be posted,
Okay.
and it would have to be made available to the public in order to abide with the Sunshine Law.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
The retreat itself has to be made public?
yes.
Yes.
In any activity that the board takes, even work sessions, The nomination committee was
Mhm.
posted and is available to the public. Anything that we do needs to be made available to the public so that they can listen.
I'm comfortable with that. Anybody else?
I mean, I speak my mind anyway, so it's,
I do too. I'm an
yeah,
open
I
book,
mean,
so,
right.
I mean, you can share what you'd like to share, and if you don't want to share it, just
I
don't.
think the whole concept of the retreat, as long as it's focused
Mhm.
on very specific items, because our meetings last a long time, probably longer than most boards and commissions in this city, because we have a lot to talk about.
Mhm.
So we're already kind of an open group amongst ourselves.
Yep.
I mean, I know Cindy and Angela are a little newer to the group, but I think you recognize right away that we're pretty open thinkers and we talk openly amongst one another. And I've tried to always promote that. So I think the retreat needs to be very focused. So we come up with a specific outcome
Mhm.
that we're not able to maybe meet during our regular scheduled meetings. That's just kind of my 2 cents.
Other thoughts on that?
I'm totally fine with all of that. I think it'd be great experience for everybody.
Also, I want to say that I think Angela and I were very aware of everybody's so busy, and that, we don't want a half day, 3-4 hour retreat. We're thinking an hour and a half to 2 hours at the very most.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a theme? Is it trust building, or is it?
Well, we're still, there's a little bit of brainstorming still happening.
So you guys are planning it. Do you need help as a committee, as a planning committee, Angela and Katie?
What do you think, Angela?
Chairs?
I think we can get back with you to let you know if we need any help. I think we do have an agenda or outline put together. We could send out a doodle form or something just to get an idea of when people would be available, and so that we could select the date. Because I think, we've talked about the fact that there are activities planned, but also a time for us to set goals. And then maybe some of the things that we cover in the retreat, we won't have to spend as much time on in the meetings. I think that's the whole idea behind, talking about some of these bigger picture issues and making some plans.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. So we'll bring it to the next meeting. How's that for an update? Okay. Number 10, report on community conversations and implicit bias, anti-racist, equity, systemic racism training initiative. That's a mouthful.
Yes, it is.
Is that your part? Were you going to talk about the EI, Kevin, or is there something?
No,
else?
that's the ongoing conversation that
Okay.
Mayor Welch is having
Okay.
with the community.
Mayor
and how
Welch?
that's going.
We have completed the equity audit. The company or the group that is doing this, Beloved Community, took the entire month of February off. So they have reported back to the council about our feedback, and they've reported back about the staff feedback, and we're going to put all of that together and talk shortly in March about what that equity audit has revealed, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. So maybe we check back with you in April, because you'll have the discussion in March.
Or we may have it
Okay.
by the end of March. So at
Okay.
the next meeting, I should have something for you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And Kevin, you had.
Yeah, I had asked Cindy if I could have just a couple of minutes, and just to let you guys know, I attended several sessions today. Webster University is having the DEI virtual conference, Diversity,
right.
Equity, and Inclusion Conference.
Oh, shoot.
And I attended several sessions today, and they were awesome. sessions. The first one was Kai Stowers, who is a transgender individual. And his discussion was on mindfulness, intercultural communication, showing up in mind, body, and heart. And it was awesome. On things that we can do to put ourselves in the right frame of mind to actually listen to people, and not just listen to them to facilitate a reply, but actually listening to them. And then there was another session in the balance, seeing a person rather than a record in second chance employment opportunities. And it was a discussion from Dr. Roderick Nunn, Johnny C. Taylor, and Ramona Palmer Eason. Dr. Nunn is head of an organization in, I believe, the St. Louis area, who they engage with those individuals that are incarcerated that are going to be released approximately within 6 months, to put them in a program so that they can have gainful employment when they come out of prison, out of incarceration, so that the going back to prison is not an option. They learn through this wonderful program how to build skills and become a part of the workforce. And then Johnny Taylor is an HR person somewhere in the South. I didn't catch where he was from, but he's with I think it's shoot, where's my notes? SHRM, the SHRM Foundation, SHRM Foundation. And Dr. Nunn was the Concordance Academy of Leadership. So I haven't had a chance, but I'm gonna look both of those organizations up. And then Ramona Palmer Eason was an attorney with Armstrong Teasdale. The next presenter was Jackie Glenn, and she talked about the power of allyship, and how it's important to have an ally through this process of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then Zakiya Mabry talked about improving the disability and experience in organizations. And I was very interested in that because of my involvement with Easter Seals and United Cerebral Palsy. And then tomorrow at 7 o'clock, Patrice Cullors is going to do a presentation, and she's the co-founder of Black Lives Matter, the Black Lives Matter movement. So if you guys are interested, go online to Webster University and sign. It's free, register, and maybe pick up Patrice Cullors' keynote presentation tomorrow evening. But it was I learned so much. And I was able, thankfully, I've got a big project due tomorrow, but I was able to, I thought it was important to listen in on some of this because it was just amazing information. So that's it.
Thanks for sharing, Kevin. Number 11 is remarks from visitors. Is Kevin, I can't tell, are there any more remarks or is
No, there weren't, and Chief Curtis already addressed it on patrol, foot patrol officers.
Patrol. And our next meeting is March 23rd. And I forgot how you adjourn. How do you just say, is there anything else?
Well,
Say I adjourn the meeting. That's your
Adjourn the
power.
meeting.
It's your power, Cindy.
yeah, that's right. That's right. I move that we adjourn.
Oh,
You don't
that's
have to
okay.
move it. You just do it.
All right. Okay, we are officially adjourned. Have a good month ahead. And I hope somebody helps me with the agenda for next time.
I'll
Great
help
job,
you.
Cynthia.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
I'll help.
Thanks.
Bye.
Have a great Cindy.
Goodbye, everyone.
Hey, Dale,
Yes, Mayor.
So you have a sore throat, huh?
For whatever reason, I don't know if it's that second shot or what, but like this afternoon, my voice started going. I don't know what happened to it.
When did you have your shot, Dale?
At SLU?
No, when? Today?
Oh, when? Yeah, my second shot was this morning.
Okay, I had my second yesterday, and I haven't been having any problems with my throat, but listening to you, I've started.
The power of persuasion, right?
Sorry about
I
that.
had,
Yes.
I had mine this afternoon, but what I'm starting to get are muscle aches.
Oh, I'm not gonna listen to that. I don't.
So,
All right.
But
Well,
I'm
I
just-
haven't had any, and
Oh,
I'm way down the road, so.
Was that your second one, Eric? Was that your second shot?
yeah, it was my second.
yeah.
Good. I didn't have any problems with my first one. Hopefully, this is just something maybe that kicked up, but I don't know. Other than that, I feel fine.
Good. Yeah, I feel
Awesome.
good.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.